Hi guys, welcome back. Thanks for being here. Welcome to my new subscribers. I just finished listening to the latest Drama Queens podcast for episode 4, Crash Into You, and now I'm going to do my rewatch reaction with all the knowledge I obtained. So I do find it funny when Lucas, is in the shower in the beginning and then his mom has to rinse his hair out. It's a very mother son I feel like Karen's having a flashback oh, this is what I did for you when you were a baby. And then of course we flash to Deb. We have Deb in this episode, and I think the podcast made a lot of really good points about Deb and how she just kind of shows up. And it's just such, for those of us that know what's coming, this is such a contrast. It's a complete 180 with how Dan and Deb are in the beginning of this episode 4 and how lovey-dovey they are. And it's just when you know what's coming, it still boggles the mind, because it's wow, they really were like that at some point. Oh my God, when Brooke's all to Peyton, you and Lucas are so broody, you could brood together. Foreshadowing. Okay, when Lucas is really just making it happen on the court in the beginning of this episode, and they flash to Dan, and he has this almost proud look on his face. He's trying not to show it, but he's not. I think what's interesting about the podcast is it kind of opens up to different, not only perspectives that we wouldn't think about, but it also just kind of makes you watch it very differently, because you're wow, he really had to play that a very specific way to be I'm proud, but I can't really show that. And it's it kind of speaks to his skill level for sure. Okay, at the end of the game when Tim is come on, Nathan, come on, man. Am I detecting a southern twang in his voice? I don't ever think I've detected that before. Okay, something else I noticed. At the end of the game when Lucas is talking to Karen, and you see their loving mother-son relationship, and you see Deb kind of walking in the background, and you see, I notice now, her almost, wishing she had that kind of relationship with her son. We know she states that later, but now I see that in her face. Again, another credit to these actors and how they had to play these roles. And of course, Dan can always be relied upon to give a angry, if not disappointed look to Nathan after the game. It's ugh. Okay, first shot of Haley in the hat. They were talking about from the podcast, the penis hat. I don't see it. It never looked like a penis to me. I don't see it. Oh, and also in that moment in the car with Lucas and Haley, and she's like, do you think Nathan could have a change of heart? And then Lucas is all oh, he'd have to have a heart. I kind of feel like that's foreshadowing too. Oh my God, I forgot when Brooke is looking at, sees the Peyton's art in the newspaper. And she's like, wait, this is insulting, right? Of course, Nathan's egging her on. Oh, I wonder, right? I really do like the way Deb seems to kind of, at first, I think she kind of grounds Dan, but I mean, this episode, it shows what they more used to be and now what they're heading towards, obviously, for those of us who know. But Deb really does stand her ground in this episode. I have to agree. Classic Nathan being a jerk in the never game. But I did like Lucas's response. It's you're welcome to mine. It's I will say they had a good back and forth. Even though it was pretty heavy at the beginning. I really think I missed that whole interaction with Peyton and Haley this last time I rewatched. Even I was wow, she just really figured Haley out. And she's yeah, be careful, okay? And you really say a lot when you don't say anything. And it's like, ooh, shoot, that was a moment. Oh my god, when poor Haley is trying to like defend Nathan, but not, because she's in this tutoring situation. And Nathan's all like, oh, he just misunderstood. I was just ribbing him like I do the guys. And she's like, and he's like, how would you handle it? Just stop being such a jerk. And he looks genuinely confused. Like, I will say, I do think it's awesome how they say, like, how James is such a great guy, and that's why he played this role so well. Because, I mean, he really does have some of the largest character growth in this show. So, of course, we see that moment where Lucas is kind of talking to Peyton through, and, Nathan sees that moment through the window. And then, of course, Tim being Tim, hey, where's the porn? Oh, I've got something. Ugh. I do love when Peyton tells Lucas, I'm pretty sure I don't need you at all. And he's like, pretty sure? Again, the comebacks, they were great. Such a heartbreaking moment on the video with young high school Karen and Dan. And it is a trip to hear her say, oh, he's just the sweetest guy in the world. It's like, whoa. Talk about complete 180 from what we know to come here shortly. It just, Lucas's reaction is just, he pushes Nathan, and it's just such a heavy moment. And I have to say, when Lucas sees how Peyton looks at him after this moment, it's like he tries to laugh it off, but then he's like, you see once again that really well acting ability, and you see him be like, okay, I think I took it a step too far. Like, you kind of see all of that on his face, like, I might have messed up here. That might have been what Haley was talking about with the whole jerk thing. I am kind of surprised that Lucas actually left Haley at the party. That seems very out of character for him, but considering how upset he was, I guess he could get a pass on that one, but it's just kind of odd. Yeah, it's always interesting, like, how we see Dan, tell Deb, like, oh, hey, well, you're always gone. And she's like, I'm hardly gone. You're the one that makes me feel irrelevant here. I mean, it's again, it's like a foreshadowing thing with Dan, to him just always like turning everything on everyone else. It's never his fault. Classic narcissist 101. But I have to say, bravo to her for once again standing up for herself and her right to work and her wanting to work, and, balancing the home and family and kids. And that was something that I think is, was really a powerful message, as the ladies on Drama Queen said. And, again, it's not something that really hit me at the time watching it originally or rewatching it recently. So it's like, I love all the points that they bring out for this show. It's just a lot of really good points. And Deb, and it's just, again, it's so crazy because Deb is so put together in this episode, and for what we know is coming with her later, for those of us who know, it's just like, it just boggles the mind. So it's really interesting when we see kind of a drunk Brooke, and Peyton's realizing like, oh gee, what if we end up like, Karen, she was our age when she did that video at the prom. And we see again some foreshadowing with Brooke's character on how she kind of has a moment of clarity, and she's like, maybe that means you're like her. Like, because there's this like really like kind of ditzy kind of Brooke that we see, and then we kind of start seeing those very deep moments with the Brooke character starting to develop. Okay, so that whole moment, that whole discussion between Haley and Nathan in the car. Oh my God, like, I really see how much acting was involved in that speech, because again, he's like warring between his jerk self and his heart, and his bad grades. And I think we kind of see some remnants of them, some inklings starting to peek through on that they both like each other, and just his big eyes and just the way he says it all to her is just intoxicating. Like, absolutely. It's great. I mean, like, how could she resist that? She couldn't. Like, so the beginnings of Daily. Okay, when Nathan wrecks Peyton's car, I mean, no respect for other people's property, no respect for his girlfriend, no respect for classic cars. Like, so many things wrong. And then he just walks away. It is just like, oh my God. It's like, that's what's so crazy about Nathan, because it's like he goes from like this adorable, like, I'm fawning all over you, to just this complete jerk off. And it's like, that is the back and forth of his ability to just like hone and rein in and like just perform this character. And it's as infuriating as it is intoxicating. A credit to his craft. Like, I both get and don't understand Keith. Like, I mean, I get where Keith is coming from on the anger with that, but it's like, I mean, Lucas did the best he could, because, I mean, Nathan had a point. If you call the cops, who do you think they're going to believe? I mean, we've already seen him get away with, you know, these bad things that he did before. So it's like, I feel for Lucas because he was in a very unfortunate situation. And I feel like Keith should know this, knowing how Nathan is. And I'm just like, don't punish Lucas. He's trying to do the right thing. Yes, it's crazy, but Nathan had a point. Who do you think the cops are going to believe? His daddy or you? Okay, I totally forgot that Lucas found Haley's hat in the car. I totally forgot that part. I do agree with the ladies on the podcast about how Deb going to Karen to kind of just say her piece, I guess. It was a very strong moment. It was a very empowering moment. It was a very taking your power type, back moment. And it was a nice, like, hey, I'm not in competition with you. And it is a good point that they made, how there's so many shows that kind of glorify the idea of women just being in competition with each other, or people in general for that matter. So it really was a good, nice moment to see such a refreshing 180 on that whole thought process. I have to agree, that whole interaction with Peyton and Nathan, and he's like, oh, I don't know where your car is. And I just I let Tim take it. And she's like, yeah, you're lying to me. Hello. And he's still trying to get laid. And it's just like, again, it's that whole back and forth with his, like, I'm trying to be nice, but I'm really a jerk, but I'm not really a jerk. And I'm going to do the puppy dog eyes. Oh, it's not working. Like, again, a credit to his craft with his acting, as well as Hillary Burton. And, they just had that was just a great moment right there. Like, horrible moment, but very awesomely acted. Another amazing moment with Lucas and Karen, and just his anger about, how Nathan just gets away with everything, and how, she didn't really tell him the whole story with her and Dan. And just, you really feel these moments. I think that's what's so amazing about this show, because the moments are so completely conveyed, and you relate, you feel it. So in the moment between Karen and Lucas, after he blows up and she's like, hey, calm enough to talk. And for those of us, spoiler alert, who knows what's coming, we do find out later that Dan did offer financial support. But in this moment, we do see a very logical choice in Karen's decision of not allowing Dan into Lucas's life, because he would have expected to have a say in Lucas's, the way Lucas was raised. So in this knowledge, I totally get why she didn't take that help, because Dan is definitely not a silent partner. I do love Deb's forcefulness at the end of this episode with Dan, where she's like, okay, this is what your responsible kid just did last night. I mean, I love that Keith told her. I love that she took that stand with Dan. I love that you see this, like, you definitely see that she definitely challenged Dan, which would explain, like, how they've managed to make that work in a sense. But I just love how she's just like, no, you're full of crap and I'm calling you on it. And now I'm going to be home. And I do love when she's like, try not to look so disappointed. I mean, she was very put together and very forceful. Again, for those of us who know what's coming with her, it's such a 180. It's just mind blowing. I must say these interactions in this episode between the characters are very are packed. They're very loaded scenes, and I love this scene with Lucas and Nathan in the shop, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll pay you," and Lucas is like, "No, I don't want your money. Just stay away from Haley." And you know, Nathan's like, "Oh, we're just talking, just like you and Peyton," and it's like again that back and forth is really great. Ladies, take note. Peyton was so strong in that moment as well, and she just really saw Nathan for what he was, and she took her power back and was like, "Get out, man. We're through. Thank you for being such an amazing SOB last night." Like, she really saw it and didn't make excuses for him anymore. So I applaud that. Any woman that takes her power back and moves on from the jerk. Brava. Honestly, I envy the friendship that Haley and Lucas have, because I didn't have a friendship like that until I was an adult. So if you can find that kind of friendship as a teenager, I applaud you. Hold on to it, because that's so rare. So that was this episode 4, Crash Into You. A lot definitely happens in this episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye.